With the rising popularity of practices like yoga or meditation in the past few decades, the concept of self-love became something that is often talked about as one of the key pillars of our own well-being, but also the well-being of others. Yes, even if it contains the word self, the concept of self-love supposedly affects others in positive ways too. But do we really understand what self-love is? After having several conversations with people of all backgrounds and ages, I realized that this concept I take for granted everyone knows exactly what's about, actually is not. A common misconception is that self-love is selfish, that is about indulging yourself with different treats, that is all about me, and not caring for other people. Today, we'll explore what self-love is and why it is by absolutely far, the most important part of ourselves to develop. No other human quality will bring upon a more beautiful world than self-love. So, let's dive in. Hi there, I'm Ivan, and after 10 years of leading healing ceremonies, one thread has been common to all 500 of them. The more people heal, the more self-love they feel. And the more self-love they feel, the more they heal. Healing and self-love go hand by hand, so it isn't a surprise that it is such a common topic in healing settings. So, what is self-love? In the most simple terms, self-love is the love available in your heart redirected at yourself. We need to talk about the nuances around this, but at the end of the day, it's that simple. Each one of us has love available in our hearts. I can even say an infinite amount. However, not all of the love in our hearts can be freely accessed. It is not available in the places in which our hearts are blocked, and those are the places where our hearts have closed up in order to protect itself from the different threats that have harmed it, especially during formative years. And then the more we grow, the more harmful situations that we go through will make our heart protect itself by closing, simply because keeping your heart fully open in the presence of a threat to it makes the pain much greater. I made a video dedicated purely to talking about the emotional body and how we close our hearts, which you can check up here or in the description below. As our hearts slowly close, the infinite love capable of flowing through them becomes less available in the places where they have closed. Basically, the infinite love becomes finite. In all of the places of our hearts where love can't flow, our actions will be a manifestation of that. How do you think actions that come from a place where love can't flow look like? Well, they look something like this. When you look at these images, do you feel love is flowing through those hearts in those moments? Also, what are the consequences of those moments? Those are trauma, wounding, pain inflicted on other people and on ourselves as well. When we do that, we are unconsciously sending the message to these people that our love is not available to them. But the even deeper and more harmful underlying message is you are not worthy of being loved. The person in the receiving end of that believes that message, and so they learn that love isn't something they deserve, including the love available in their own hearts toward themselves. Lack of self-love then is formed, meaning that a person cannot redirect the love available in their hearts back to themselves, because the belief I am not worthy of love has been installed by somebody else through their hurtful actions. Later on in life, because the person has no love for themselves, will also have very little of it available for others. This comes from the simple concept of survival that if our own needs are not met, we won't be inclined to meet the needs of others. Think of a person starving almost to death. Whatever food they get, they will eat it rather than giving it away, because they can't give something away essential to their survival if they are not fulfilled themselves. However, if a person is completely full and can't eat anymore, it is very likely that the person will be more than happy to give that food away to anyone hungry. Well, love works the same way. When we see a parent enraged with their children, or a husband abusing their wife, or someone betraying a friend, it seems like they are doing those things out of lack of love toward the other person. And even though that is true on the surface, that isn't what is causing it. The root cause is that they don't have love for themselves. Just like with the starving person, they can't give love away if they have not fulfilled the needs of their own hearts with their own love first. Anyone who loves themselves can't dismiss their children or hit their wife, because if they love themselves, that means that their hearts are open, and it would be just too painful to create harm on other people with a cracked open heart. And that is because when your heart is open, it connects with the hearts of others. And so the pain inflicted in other people is felt by your heart as its own. To make this less theoretical, imagine for a moment hurting really badly someone you love very much, like punching your own child or your mother. I know this sounds awful, and in a way, that's the point. Just imagining this for a split second is way too painful to imagine, because the pain caused to them is felt directly by your own heart. And that is because your heart is open in those places, and so it connects with theirs, and their pain becomes yours. However, if you are full of resentment toward your mother because she was extremely abusive to you, there might be parts of you where the idea of punching her might sound somewhat of a relief rather than painful. Those parts of your heart are closed toward her, and thus love can't flow in those places, and you wouldn't connect with the pain caused to her. Resentment basically is one of the most effective emotions at closing our hearts. Now, check this out. A person who lacks self-love is a person that received the lack of self-love of those who were supposed to love them. This means that lack of self-love translates as hurting other people, creating lack of self-love in them, which in turn will hurt other people, creating lack of self-love in them. This is why I started this video saying that not loving ourselves isn't just harmful to us, but also to the world around us, and that loving ourselves is the actual change our world is in desperate need of. When a person is full of love toward themselves, they will have a much easier time doing all of the following things: having compassion toward themselves when they make a mistake, understanding their own humanity, forgiving themselves for the pain they have caused to others and to themselves, giving themselves or asking others for what they need, not being too hard on themselves, eating healthier, exercising and caring for their bodies, meditating and caring for their minds and hearts, and taking responsibility and ownership. Basically, if I love myself fully, I will not want to do anything that would harm any part of me, my body, my mind, and my heart. So someone with a lot of self-love will only eat those things that their bodies need, because anything else harms it, and their self-love will not allow for that. Or they would have a tendency to exercise often, because otherwise their bodies would suffer. Or they would have a spiritual practice like meditation, yoga, or journaling. Otherwise, their minds and their spirits would suffer. But those who do not love themselves, they do not care to self-harm, so they would eat whatever junk food or engage in practices that are harmful to their hearts. For example, self-abandonment and staying all day in the couch, letting themselves go. In return, those people will most likely treat others that way too, continuing the cycle of harming others and imposing on them their own lack of self-love. Can you start to see why self-love is by far the most important quality we could develop? Here are all the things that would likely not exist or diminish to the absolute minimum if people would love themselves: child abuse, sexual abuse, betrayal and revenge, greed, selfishness, narcissism, and I would say even wars. Actually, the list goes on and on and on. Almost every single aspect that makes this world less beautiful and less joyful to live in stem at the end of the day from lack of self-love. We could never start a war if we would have our hearts open, because the pain caused to others would be felt like it is caused directly to us. Because, well, it actually is. The idea of separation is just that, a simple idea, and it is not based on truth, though that topic is big enough and worthy of its own video. The same happens with selfishness or greed. We wouldn't want to endlessly take more for ourselves if we would feel fulfilled with our own love. The more we want for ourselves where we don't actually need it, the more those actions point out at how our hearts are lacking what it actually really needs from ourselves. Remember this? I mentioned that when a person is full of love toward themselves, they will have a much easier time doing all of those things. But also, they will have a much easier time doing that for others. So, having compassion toward others when they make a mistake, understanding others people's humanity, forgiving others for the pain they have caused you, giving others what they need, encouraging other people to eat healthier, exercise, and care for their bodies, and encouraging others to meditate and care for their minds and hearts. To understand better what self-love is, we first need to talk about love in general. Love is a raw energy. It is like the Joker card on a deck that can take the place of any card. We never really give love in its raw form. Instead, we give love in the form of. I can give love in the form of care, in the form of touch, in the form of service, in the form of listening, in the form of words. So when I say that self-love is a love available in your heart redirected at yourself, what I really mean is when you give yourself love in the form of. For example, caring for your body is an expression of self-love because you are giving love to yourself in the form of care for your body. Self-compassion is a form of self-love because you are giving love to yourself in the form of understanding. Self-forgiveness is a form of self-love. Intention to heal is a form of self-love. Attuning to your own needs and acting upon them. Defending your inner child. Setting healthy boundaries. These are a few of the many ways in which you can give love to yourself in the form of. Love is experienced in its raw form before giving it away, when it is flowing through the heart. It is the Joker card. But once it leaves your heart and it is directed to someone else or to yourself, it already takes any of the many forms already mentioned. Self-love is not about self-indulgence. Self-indulgence could be a way of coping from the pain experienced in those places where your heart has been wounded and thus has closed up. For example, I'm just loving myself. That's why I'm buying my 15th pair of shoes. That is not loving yourself. That is filling the hole in the place where self-love is not present. If it would, there would be no need for more shoes. Self-love is not about being selfish either. Being selfish is an expression of lack of self-love in certain places that the thing that we are selfish about fills in as a replacement of the need that has gone unmet. For example, I never treat my friends to dinner because that way I can have more for me, so I guess I'm loving myself, right? No, that is not self-love, for the same reasons that we talked about before. I am saying this because these misconceptions could prevent someone from seeking to start their journey of loving themselves from fear of being selfish or self-indulgent. Another thing that could be confused with self-love is to appease to your wounded inner child's wants. In the video about the inner child, which you can check up here or in the description below, we talked about the importance of listening to them, attuning to their needs, and doing what they ask for. But here we need to make sure that we're listening to their needs and not to their wants, because listening to their needs is love in the form of attunement, whereas listening to their wants will most likely be coming from a wounded place. Here's an example. If my wounded inner child needs to be held in his anger, but wants to punch the person in front of me, holding him in his anger would be a form of self-love, while punching the person would not. The problem here is that it is very easy to confuse needs with wants, and we might punch the person thinking we are attuning to our inner child's needs. To summarize, self-love is about redirecting back to yourself the love available in your heart in the form of all the different needs that you have, so that you can be fulfilled and be able to give that love freely to those people who need your love as the medicine that will eventually teach them to love themselves too. Let's ask the following questions. What's the best thing I could do for my body right now? For my mind? For my heart? For my spirit? For my inner child? The answer to all of those questions will be coming from a place of self-love. If you are really wounded, you might not have much love available in your heart, which translates as not truly understanding at the experiential level what love actually is. This is why for so many, self-love is such a foreign topic, which is why I am making this video. This is a great reason, maybe the most important reason, to do healing work. Once you start your healing journey, self-love starts becoming more available, which in turn helps you want to do more healing because now you love yourself more. And as a consequence, you want the best for yourself. As self-love grows, your capacity to love others grows too. That is because giving love to others is another manifestation of self-love. Why is that? Because allowing love to flow is the actual purpose of your heart. So, by loving others, you fulfill your heart's purpose. Fulfilling your heart's purpose is a form of loving yourself. Also, by loving yourself, you show others that it is both okay and possible to do so. So self-love is love towards others in the form of permission to love themselves. I hope you can see now how self-love can drastically change the world in all the ways in which we wish it to change. I honestly believe that this is the solution to most of our problems. Of course, if you start loving yourself right now, the world will still be the same, but you will be teaching others how to love themselves simply by being the example. And several generations down the road, if we all do our part, our great-great-great-grandchildren might eventually live in that more beautiful world. So, how do we learn how to love ourselves? Well, by doing healing work. There is no other way. That's why healing work is the most important thing we could all be doing. So, start your healing journey today with the intention of learning all of the places within you that are missing self-love, and soon you will realize how much progress you can make around this. You and your children and everyone around you will feel your change right away, and then they will follow. When Gandhi says, "Be the change you want to see in the world," I want to see a world where everybody loves themselves much more. So I'm going to finish this video now and go work in all of the places that I have yet to love myself. You can get the summary of this video completely for free, put together beautifully in a PDF, so that you can refresh your memory around the topics presented here anytime that you want. To get it, check out the link in the description below. If you would like to support the channel, liking and subscribing does just that for me, and it helps you not miss the content that I put out. Last, a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, and I will see you next week. Bye! Click on the left square to watch another video I made on a related topic. All my content is free. If you appreciate it and wish to assist me to continue releasing this kind of content, please consider supporting me on Patreon. You can also follow me on my socials and subscribe to this channel.